Hey y'all, so this week we are going to be talking about the next section in The Great Hunt, which is the second book in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. So let's go. Chapter 4, Summoned. This chapter has a lot of stuff going on in it. We find out that there are 3 more false dragons, which is a little surprising because there's already 3 more false dragons. It's made clear that that's a little strange in and of itself, but here we are. I was excited because in this chapter you learn a little bit more about the Aes Sedai in general, and you can tell that they're supposed to be a sisterhood. On the surface, everything that they put forward to other people, the outside of the Aes Sedai, they're a sisterhood. But you can tell very clearly that there is an us versus them mentality, especially between the colors. It's not a sisterhood at all. It is very rife with politics and different colors having different beliefs of the way they should handle things. So it's really interesting to see them try to put on this sisterhood front and then bicker amongst themselves in the background. So there's going to be a lot of turmoil, a lot of fighting, trying to decide what to do and who's right and who's wrong and how they should handle certain things. So that's going to be very interesting to see how our characters navigate all of these issues. Moraine is, at one point, she's a little relieved that she was told that a sister couldn't do a foretelling, like telling the fortune. And so I want to know, what does Moraine know? She knows things. Her and the Everland seat, it became clear in this chapter, they have plans. They had a plan. It's kind of changed. You know, the Everland seat is a little upset with her, but you can tell they have plans. I want to know what those plans are. She knows things are happening, and clearly they even threatened Moraine with the Red Aja, so I'm kind of confused. Like, what would the Red Aja do to her? What is this punishment that they would do to a fellow Aes Sedai? It's really strange, so I'm sure that we're going to get a little more information as we travel with more Aes Sedai. But it's kind of terrifying. What are they doing to each other? And why would they be willing to do that to each other? It's just a little terrifying, not gonna lie. We learn a few more interesting details. So we know Elaine and Gawain are in Tar Valon right now. We know Elaine is training to be an Aes Sedai, which isn't a surprise. We kind of knew that from the Eye of the World. But she's officially there training. She just doesn't want her people to know that she's going to be an Aes Sedai, or at least training to be one. It's clear that her people wouldn't really accept her if she was an Aes Sedai, so that's interesting. But we also learn that the Aes Sedai in general, they're struggling with numbers and members. So I kind of wonder if, because of all this prejudice and this fear surrounding the Aes Sedai, if their numbers are struggling because women that can channel won't come forward for training. Is it a vicious cycle that we're seeing here, that, you know, people are afraid of them so they don't go to them when they figure out they can channel? It's kind of like Rand. You know, he knows he can channel. He's terrified. He doesn't even want to tell his closest friends. That's how terrified he is. So why would he go to a group for training? You know, if he's that afraid, why would he go? So we also get a little bit more information about the horn, and I'm just going to read it. I'm just going to quote it because I don't want to get it wrong. This is: the Horn of Valir must be found before the final battle against the Shadow. So my question is, it's already found. So what does that mean? We've already found it. Does it mean that it has to actually be sounded for it to count as being found? Who has to find it? What does finding it mean? Because we have it. We have the horn. So that kind of makes me think that something is going to happen. We're not going to have the horn anymore, or something has to be done for the horn to be considered found, and that's going to be another undertaking in and of itself. Or maybe the wrong people have found it. There's just so much that could be done with that. So that's pretty interesting, but we learn a lot more about the Aes Sedai and Moraine in this one, so it was a good chapter. Chapter 5, The Shadow and Shinar. This chapter was pretty interesting as well. So in this chapter, a lot of emphasis is being put on prophecies and the fact that they need to be fulfilled. And that's something that we've seen a lot in these books. They focus on prophecies a lot, that prophecies in this world have a lot of power. So the Everland Seed is upset with Moraine because Moraine is changing things about their plan without any oversight. She feels like Moraine is overstepping her bounds by changing all of these things. Moraine is kind of trying to defend herself, saying, you know, the Everland Seed wasn't there. She had to do what she could given the situation they were in. And I see both sides. It's hard to say who's right and who's wrong, but the stakes are so high that I feel like everyone is just on edge, and it's going to be difficult to kind of circumnavigate all these plans. You know, it's just everyone has plans, none of it can go right. So we learned that the Horn of Valere calls old dead heroes back from the grave, and that the horn will be found just in time for the final battle. Now, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the last chapter. What does just in time mean? Because if these ages are, you know, like they are 1,000 years long, then 10 years may be just in time in the grand scheme of things, because 10 years out of 1,000 isn't really that much. But for us, just in time probably literally means just in time, like just in time. So I'm curious to see what the prophecy is thinking of just in time. What does the prophecy think just in time means? And once again, what does it mean to be found? When are you going to sound it? How do you know when to sound it? I have all these questions, but I'm sure in a book called The Great Hunt about the horn itself, we're going to learn. So we also have a quote from the horn where it says, "Let whoever sounds me think not of glory, but only of salvation." So that goes back to a hero does not seek out to be a hero. They don't seek leadership. It is thrust upon them. So that's another thing about the horn, is you're supposed to know who is destined to sound it, because they're not doing it for glory and, you know, to win the war for the glory of it. I can't think of another word that I'm trying to say, but they're going to sound it in a need of legitimate desperation. So that's an interesting caveat for the horn, but also not unexpected. At this point, the Everland Seed is going through a lot of doubts because she's worried that some of these false dragons may have been the true dragon, but they've already gentled them, and that part of the prophecy isn't going to be fulfilled, that they've already ruined it by gentling someone who is the dragon. So it begs the question, how do they know who is a false dragon? I feel like I want more information on this. How do you know they are a false dragon? That's very important, because then the Everland Seat, she also comes back and says, Rand al'Thor will stand before the world as the dragon reborn. So there goes one of my predictions right out the window. I didn't think we would find out who the dragon reborn was this early in the book. I think I said that it was going to be at the very end, and here we are 5 chapters in, and she's just telling me that Rand al'Thor is the dragon reborn. So that kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it this early in the book. So that also still kind of brings me back. I was also worried about him being a false dragon, but she's convinced that he is the true dragon reborn, so that's what we're going to go with. Also not a surprise. I'm kind of excited that we learned about this so early. I think it's going to come into play along with the horn throughout this book. We also learned that Moraine is purposely distancing herself from Rand, and that really bothers me. Once again, I get it. You distance yourself to protect them, blah, blah, blah. But it also reminds me of what Dumbledore did to Harry in the Order of the Phoenix, and we all know how that turned out. So it bothers me, because I know that is creating a lot of drama within Rand, and I feel like Moraine just needs to be a little bit more honest and upfront with him. But once again, she has a lot of knowledge that she's not sharing with anyone. It even seems like she's withholding knowledge from the Everland Seed herself, even though they're supposed to have been, you know, kind of planning things together. I'm not surprised that she's holding things back from Rand. He's still very volatile. He's still feeling all this anger and resentment. He's still afraid of being a channeler, and it may be too dangerous for Moraine to tell him. It's just, I think it's going to cause some problems later down the road. So we meet Bornhold, who is he's a child of the light, and he's questioning the questioners' methods of rooting out dark friends in these little villages, because he knows that the way they question innocent people hurts innocence, but he's not really speaking up at this point. We also meet Leandrin, and she burns books, so I hate her immediately. Anyway, Leandrin already suspects the trio, our 3 boys. She's manipulating Amelisa and telling her that Agelmar is possibly a dark friend, and that if he is, people are going to suspect Amelisa of being a dark friend, because Amelisa and Agelmar are brother and sister. So she's manipulating Amelisa, which isn't a surprise because we hate Leandrin for more reasons than just that she burns books, but we automatically hate her for burning books. I wonder if Leandrin is going to turn out to be one of those fabled Black Aja, or if she's just using it as a manipulation tool. I mean, she burns books, so she might as well be. But I am interested to see where this Leandrin thing is going to go. She does feel the eyes on her too, just like Rand. So I felt like that was kind of an interesting thing to tie Rand and Leandrin together. So I'm excited to keep reading to kind of see where that goes. Well, that wraps us up for this week, so stay tuned next week for the next section of The Great Hunt. Y'all take care.